Hello guys, today we'll discuss about the lymphatic drainage of the posterior abdominal wall. So far we have covered the arteries, right, vascular system. We'll look at the lymphatic drainage of the posterior abdominal wall in this session. As you remembered, I hope you remember this diagram, right? Lymph is a collection of fluid from the capillary end, and the lymph contains the interstitial fluid, right, some cells and cell products and debris, right, and they ultimately open into the venous side of the venous side of the vascular system, right. So the lymphatic system contains the lymph nodes and lymphatics, right, you already learned that. And coming to the posterior lymphatic system or lymphatic drainage of the posterior abdominal wall, lymphatic drainage from most deep structures and regions of the body below the diaphragm, right, converges mainly on collection of lymph nodes and vessels associated with the major blood vessels of the posterior abdominal wall. As you know, the lymphatics mostly distributed along the vessels, veins and arteries. The lymph then predominantly drains into the thoracic duct, right? We'll see shortly. The lymphatic stream is intercepted by a series of lymph node groups before reaching the cisterna chyli and the thoracic duct, right? These are the main lymphatics of the body. The right jugular trunk, left jugular trunk, right side of the head and neck, left side of the head and neck. As you already learned, right subclavian trunk means right upper limb, superficial regions of thorax and upper abdominal walls. Left subclavian trunk, left upper limb, superficial regions of thoracic and abdominal walls. Right bronchomediastinal trunk, right lung, bronchi, mediastinal structures, thoracic wall. Left lung, left bronchi, mediastinal structures and thoracic wall. And thoracic duct. Thoracic duct drains lower limbs, abdominal walls and viscera, pelvic walls and viscera, and thoracic wall. So you have to remember this, right? So below the diaphragm, all the lymph converges to the or drains into the thoracic duct, which opens into the venous system. You see, these are the, you see, right jugular trunk, subclavian trunk, right side bronchomediastinal trunk. These are, right. This is bronchomediastinal trunk. This is subclavian trunk. Left jugular trunk, left subclavian trunk, left bronchomediastinal trunk, and this is the thoracic duct. So all the lymph from here, from lower limbs, right, and abdomen and viscera, this is cisterna chyli, CC, opens into the thoracic duct, right, TC, TD. Coming to the cisterna chyli. It is an elongated white lymphatic sac about 5 to 7 centimeters long and 4 mm wide. It lies on the front of L1 and L2 vertebra between the aorta and the azygos vein, hidden by the right cross of the diaphragm. We'll see that. So, this is L1, right? This is L2. So, this is L1. And that structure, selected structure, is cisterna chyli, right? So, if you add aorta we'll add, and we will add azigoth vein. You see, so this lies in between aorta and azigoth vein, right? That is azigoth vein, right? So this ampulla-like structure is cisterna chyli, right? Cisterna chyli. You see, this is before L1 and L2, between aorta and azigoth vein, right? Superiorly, it continues as the thoracic duct. Okay, it continues as the thoracic duct. We'll see that later, right? We'll have these structures. So this is the lymphatic system of the posterior abdominal wall, right? All the lymph nodes and lymphatics are here. So this structure is cisterna chyli, right? The most common configuration found in approximately 2/3 of the individuals is a single structure formed from union of the intestinal trunk and left lumbar trunk. Usually there are left and right lumbar trunks and intestinal trunks. So the cisterna chyli, the formation of cisterna chyli is usually by the left lumbar trunk and intestinal trunk. Okay, that is usual configuration in 2/3 individuals, and remaining both trunks, both lumbar trunks. That means both right and left trunks and intestinal trunks forms the cisterna chyli. We'll see that. Right and left intestinal lymph trunks from preaortic lymph nodes which open in its middle. These trunks drain lymph from small intestine, stomach, and liver. Right and left lumbar lymph trunks. These are para-aortic lymph nodes which open in it inferiorly. A pair of lymph vessels, lower intercostal lymph nodes which open in it superiorly. So middle, inferior, superior, right? Intestinal lymph trunks, lumbar lymph trunk, and lymph vessels. So intestinal lymph trunks and lumbar lymph trunks forms cisterna chyli, right? Coming to the lymph nodes, these are located along the external iliac arteries, common iliac and abdominal aorta, and accordingly termed external iliac, common iliac, and aortic lymph nodes, right? We'll see them. These are 8 to 10 in number, external iliac nodes, and lie along the external iliac vessels. See? These are the external iliac lymph nodes, right? External selected structures, both sides, this side and this side, right? External iliac lymph nodes. The medial nodes receive lymph from the pelvic viscera and lower limb, whereas the lateral nodes receive lymph from the territories of inferior epigastric and deep circumflex iliac vessels. Efferents from these nodes passing into the common iliac nodes. So external iliac nodes forms common iliac nodes. Coming to the common iliac nodes, these are 4 to 6 in number and lie along the common iliac vessels and below the bifurcation of aorta. The lateral group of nodes receive lymph from the pelvis and lower limb via external and internal iliac lymph nodes, whereas the medial group of nodes receive lymph from pelvic viscera directly and through internal iliac and sacral nodes. We'll see. So those are external iliac, right? These are sacral iliac lymph nodes. And you see the selected structures are common iliac lymph nodes, right? These are the common iliac lymph nodes. Okay. And these are the external iliac lymph nodes. And these are the common iliac lymph nodes. Coming to the aortic lymph nodes, these are situated along the abdominal aorta and inferior vena cava. There are two groups, pre-aortic and para-aortic, and these are also called as retroperitoneal lymph nodes. Retroperitoneal lymph nodes, right? Pre-aortic and para-aortic. You see, these are the external iliac lymph nodes, and these are the internal iliac lymph nodes, and these are the common iliac lymph nodes, right? Common iliac, external iliac, and internal iliac. These are the internal iliac, and these are the external iliac, and these are the common iliac. Coming to the pre-aortic nodes, pre-aortic lymph nodes. These nodes are located around the origin of the celiac, superior mesenteric, and inferior mesenteric arteries, and are accordingly named as celiac lymph nodes, superior mesenteric lymph nodes, and inferior mesenteric lymph nodes. Right? We'll see pre-aortic lymph nodes. These are para-aortic lymph nodes, but we should pre-aortic. Where are they? Okay. They receive lymph from the organs supplied by these arteries, that is celiac, superior mesenteric, and inferior mesenteric arteries. The efferents form pre-aortic nodes from the intestinal lymph trunk. So these pre-aortic nodes form intestinal lymph trunk which drains into the cisterna chyli. Right? I'll show you. This is lumbar. So that is intestinal lymph trunk. So the selected structure, right? So these are the pre-aortic. These are superior mesenteric nodes, and these are celiac nodes, superior mesenteric, and we have to find inferior mesenteric, not visible. So these are the superior mesenteric vessels. This is superior mesenteric lymph nodes. This is celiac lymph nodes. So this is this one is intestinal trunk. You see, intestinal trunk is opening inferiorly into the cisterna chyli, right? That is intestinal trunk. So these pre-aortic lymph nodes form intestinal trunk which drains into the cisterna chyli. And para-aortic or lateral aortic lymph nodes, they are situated on each side of abdominal aorta. Some nodes of these groups lie behind aorta and called retroaortic. They are called also as lumbar nodes. They receive lymph from suprarenal glands, kidneys, ureters, and testes and ovaries. They also receive lymph from most pelvic organs and the lower extremities through internal iliac, external iliac, and common. So para-aortic lymph nodes receive internal and common iliac, external and common iliac lymph. These efferents from para-aortic nodes form lumbar trunks, which drain into the cisterna chyli, right? So these are the lumbar trunks, right? This is right lumbar trunk, which is all the way, right? That is like selected structure is right lumbar trunk, and this selected structure is left lumbar trunk. So this one is this is right lumbar trunk. This is left lumbar trunk. These are opening into the cisterna chyli, right? They are forming the cisterna chyli, right? So this one is right lumbar trunk, this one is left lumbar trunk, and this one is intestinal trunk, right? The lateral aortic or lumbar nodes form right and left lumbar trunks, whereas the pre-aortic nodes form intestinal trunk. These trunks come together and form a confluence that at times appears as a saccular dilatation, that is called as cisterna chyli. So they all confluent together, okay, forming a dilatation. This confluence of lymph trunks is posterior to the right side of the abdominal aorta and anterior to the bodies of the vertebrae L1 and L2. It marks the beginning of the thoracic duct. So cisterna chyli is the beginning of thoracic duct. See, this is cisterna chyli, right? And this one is right lumbar trunk, right? And this is left lumbar trunk. And you see, this is the intestinal trunk. See the diagram and see this, right? See this one. Okay. So this is the formation of cisterna chyli, right? So this one is, this one is right lumbar trunk, left lumbar trunk, and this one is intestinal trunk. See? See, external iliac, common iliac, and these same structures. Go through this diagram. You see, this is the cisterna chyli, right? Different lymph nodes. Celiac, superior mesenteric. This is the celiac. Inferior phrenic. This is celiac. Superior mesenteric third. Fourth one is inferior mesenteric, like that. So this is the lymphatic drainage of the posterior abdominal wall, right? This is cisterna chyli. Okay, cisterna chyli is formed by intestinal trunk, which receives from intestines, gastric, and liver, right? And right lumbar trunk and left lumbar trunk. All these confluence and form a saccular dilatation called as cisterna chyli. Right lumbar trunk receives from adrenals, kidneys, right? And also from the lower limb, and also from bladder, uterus, testes, and all, right? So this is the overall diagram. And this is the cisterna chyli, right? This opens into the thoracic duct, right? And the thoracic duct travels all the way to open into the left subclavian way, right? You see the formation right lumbar lymphatic trunk, left lumbar lymphatic trunk, and intestinal lymphatic trunk, right? From this, from like, and this. Coming to the clinical anatomy, retroperitoneal lymph nodes, right? From a clinical perspective, retroperitoneal lymph nodes are arranged in two groups: pre-aortic, we have already seen this, and para-aortic, which drains lymph from embryological midline structures such as liver, bowels, and pancreas. Para-aortic lymph nodes, lateral or lumbar lymph nodes, either side of the aorta, drain lymph from bilateral structures such as kidneys, adrenal glands. We have already gone through this. These are and also from ovaries and testes. In the presence of disease, alternative routes of lymphatic drainage will occur, right? In the adult, massively enlarged lymph nodes are a feature of lymphoma, right? Or smaller lymph node enlargement is observed in the presence of infection or metastatic malignant spread disease. Example, colon cancer. So, lymph nodes may be enlarged massively, as in the case of lymphoma, or to some extent, in the case of any infection or malignancy, metastatic malignancy. The treatment for malignant lymph node disease is based upon number of factors, including the site of primary tumor and its histological type. Normally, the primary tumor is surgically removed, right? And the lymph node spread and metastatic organ spread, example to the liver and to the lungs, are often treated with chemotherapy and radiotherapy. In certain instances, it may be considered appropriate to resect the lymph nodes in the retroperitoneum. That means you will remove the retroperitoneal lymph nodes, right? Particularly in testicular cancer, in order to stop the spread of the disease, right? Because the metastasis occurs through lymph nodes and lymphatic vessels. Surgeons reject retroperitoneal lymph nodes. Okay, retroperitoneal lymph node dissection, it is called as. The surgical approach to retroperitoneal lymph node resection involves lateral paramedian insertion in the midclavicular line. The three layers of the anterolateral abdominal wall, external, internal, and transverse abdominis, are open, and the transversalis fascia is divided. The next structure the surgeon sees is the parietal peritoneum. Instead of entering the parietal peritoneum, which is standard procedure for most intra-abdominal operations, the surgeon gently pushes the parietal peritoneum towards the midline, which moves the intra-abdominal contents and allow a clear view of retroperitoneal structures. Because we have to resect the retroperitoneum, we don't cut parietal peritoneum, right? On the left, para-aortic lymph node group is easily demonstrated with a clear view of abdominal aorta and kidney. On the right, inferior vena cava is demonstrated and has to be retracted to access the right para-aortic lymph node chain. The procedure of retroperitoneal lymph node dissection is extremely well tolerated and lacks problems of entering the peritoneal cavity. Example, parallel ileus. Unfortunately, a complication of vertical insertion in the midclavicular line is division of the segmental nerve supply to rectus abdominis muscle, which results in muscle atrophy and asymmetrical proportions of the anterior abdominal wall. So that is how you resect the retroperitoneal lymph nodes. Nowadays, they will do it by through laparoscopy or by robotic surgery, right? The major lymphatic vessels adjacent to the abdominal aorta are at risk of injury during surgical procedures that involve periaortic dissection or lymphadenectomy. So damage to these lymphatic vessels or trunks or the obstruction by malignant disease may cause major lymph leak manifesting as chyloascites or chylothorax. Chyloascites means presence of chyle in peritoneal cavity. whereas chylothorax means presence of chyle in pleural cavity. That means chyle means usually in the lymphatic system only lymph travels, right? But whereas the lymph vessels in the intestine, from the intestine contains triglycerides, right? We call them as chylomicrons. Because the lymph from the intestinal tract contains chylomicrons, the lymph from intestinal tract is called as chyle, right? So if this chyle, okay, which is milky, right, milky white in color, if this chyle is present in the pleural cavity, it is called as chylothorax, or if it is present in the peritoneal cavity, it is called as chylous ascites, right? This is the overall most important lymph nodes, right? Femoral nodes, these are the aortic lymph nodes, and these are the lymphatic vessels, right? So let me know if you have any questions or doubts. Right?